Okay. Let's explore the power of attention. Wherever we put our attention, that's what lights up. If our attention is in problem solver mind and the wanter, we will experience whatever is occurring from that perspective. And on a continuum, relaxing ever more into true nature, very fluid continuum between the wanter and the problem solver mind and then into true nature. It's a continuum. It's not an either or. As we relax into true nature, we experience reality from that larger perspective of wholeness. In the perspective of problem solver mind and the wanter, it's a perspective of separation. Even though there isn't actually separation, it seems like it when we get pulled into mind. When we're resting in true nature, we're aware of the elegant wholeness of reality. So whatever's occurring, wherever we are in that continuum, is how we experience whatever it is that's occurring. So let's say we're interacting with another person. If we're in our problem solver mind, we will be experiencing them through that perspective. Many of the people that I have the great honor of exploring reality with will be in their problem solver mind when they're speaking with me. And when we're in our problem solver mind, we just want the solution to the problem. Because remember, from within problem solver mind, all of reality is perceived as a problem, whatever it is. So sometimes when they're speaking with me and they're in problem solver mind, they will then, at some point, after they've shared whatever it is that's going on that's causing trouble for them, they'll then look to me to solve the problem, to tell them what to do, to be the answer giver, the advice giver. This happens quite often, and people get quite frustrated with me because they notice I am not willing to be in that role. I have no interest in being the answer giver. It's way more interesting to me to invite them into an exploration where they can discover for themselves that they have the wisdom, they have everything they need within their own direct experience. So I have always been drawn to the lineages that invite us into practices, allow us to directly experience for ourselves the truth, and realize that all along we have been the wise one that we're looking for. It's within all of us. Many years ago, I came across an ancient saying that was very resonant for me. The source of this is a bit unsure. When you look it up, they're not really sure where it comes from. Some say it was a proverb from China, and others say it was a saying from Lao Tzu back in the 4th century BCE. They're really not sure for sure where it came from. And yet, it's really quite a lovely truth. And I will share it, but I am realizing in this moment, I don't remember the exact quote. I'll share it with you how I remember it. If a person is hungry, you can feed them fish, and they will be fed for a day. Another way you can approach this if someone is hungry, you can teach them how to fish. and they will then be able to feed themselves for a lifetime. When I came across that, it was very resonant to me of the lineages that I so resonate with, that very much invite us to learn how to fish, to find what we're looking for within our own selves. One day, many years ago, someone I was exploring with for the first time, she was telling me the story of her life and the things that she was, having to deal with and try to navigate. And at one point, after her sharing of the various details, she said to me, "So, Mitch, what do you think I should do?" I started giggling, and she said, "What?" I said, "Well, I won't tell you what I think you should do, but I'm honored to continue to explore this with you." And she said, "What? You're not going to give me the answer?" I said, "Well, no, there's another way we can explore this." And she got very irritated with me, frustrated. "Mitch, I just want you to give me the map of how to navigate this." I said, "Well, our mind would love to have a map, a 7-step plan, something like that. And then I'll just do that, and then everything will be okay. I'll solve this problem of life with this map." And in our exploration, she kept getting more and more frustrated because I wasn't willing to be that for her. She said, "So you're not going to tell me what to do?" And I said, "No." I said, even if I was to comply and give you some sort of map for what you're experiencing and tell you what to do, by the time that I print that map out and give it to you, the ground underneath your feet will have already shifted. That map, that 7-step plan of how to navigate your life, wouldn't even be useful because it'll be something else going on, and then something else and something else. No matter what 7-step this or map that we get, it won't be as useful as a compass." She said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, we could, instead of letting our mind win and find somebody to be the answer giver for us, we could instead look within and navigate this place from the compass of the heart, our pure heart essence, our eternal naturalness right here within us." She said, "Well, that doesn't help me. How do you do that?" That doesn't make any sense to me. I just want you to give me the answer. I said, "Well, the way that I have found in my journey is when any hard decision or choice or tricky moment is presenting itself, I just drop all of my attention into my heart center. And I rest there. And I'm aware that that's where all of the eternal wisdom is, right there within our own selves. And that's where we all find each other. All of divinity, all of the source is right here within us. So I drop into my heart center and I say within the heart center, "Please let me be love." To all of the majesty and the support that's available to all of us within, I say, "Please let me be love. Please let me be love." I align with love. And then whatever comes from there, I trust that. I let that be my compass. Many years down the road from that day, I was in an exploration with another person, and she had just been hired to be a manager of a department of people that were doing cold calls, a call center. And there was a group of people that she was to manage. And the founder of the company, a man, and I think there were two other men that were involved in the founding and the organizing of this company, had hired her and asked her to be the manager of this department. And she was the first female staff member. All of the other managers and founder and everything were males. And the organization that they had founded, they had designed it on certain principles of punishment and reward and quotas and things like that. So for all of their callers, they would be told they had to have a certain number of what they called sets, S-E-T-S, sets, which was getting somebody to be willing to go to the next level within the company and talk to somebody else. So this was the first level of trying to get people to then sell things to them. And they had quotas and requirements, and if they didn't meet the quotas, there would be consequences, and if they did, there would be rewards. And it was this method that the company had been using. And her department, person who was managing it, had left. And so she was now the new manager. And she had heard that there was a lot of turnover at this company. They couldn't keep the employees for very long, so they would just hire, they were regularly hiring new callers because they just assumed it's just so stressful that they can't keep the callers. And so now she's got this new job, and she's telling me how intense it is and how demanding the bosses are, and all these things having to do with quotas and consequences and all of these things. She said, Mitch, this just doesn't feel natural to me. It just, something about it feels off. She then says to me, Mitch, if this was you, how would you approach it? So once again, I'm being asked to be the answer giver. Tell me what to do. How would you do this? It's the normal thing. The mind would love to have the trusted advisor, the one that we trust that has all the answers. Wouldn't that be great for our mind? Our mind would love to have that person that we trust to give us all the answers. And when she asked me, I dropped into the heart center. Please let me be loved. Please let me be loved. Please let me be loved. That's what I do in all of those tricky moments of life. And all of a sudden I was having this memory of another person I had explored with, this young man. And that was coming into my awareness. And I always trust what comes in when you drop into the heart. Whatever arrives there, I always trust it. So I said to her, well, many years ago, and as I started this story, I could tell that her mind was frustrated with me. She wasn't interested in a story, but I trusted it anyway. I didn't know why this story was coming. I wasn't making any correlation. All I knew was this was the story that was coming. So I trust that, and I start telling her many years ago, as I could hear some sounds of, frustration. Many years ago, a woman that I was exploring with was dating this man, and they were both in their mid to late 20s at the time. And this story goes back about 10 years ago, I told her. And she had been exploring with me for a few years, and this new guy that she was dating, she was telling me various things about. And then one day he contacted me and said he wanted to explore. So we found the date and time and we scheduled it, and he arrived. It was an evening after work. He came in and we sat down together here at the studio. And I could feel right from the start when he arrived that he did not want to be here with me. You could feel that it was, not his own choosing to be here. So we sit down, I serve him some tea, and he's looking at his watch about every 10 minutes to keep track of the time, and he's bored to tears. But I'm still exploring with him and being with him and honoring him and, loving him and inviting him into possibilities and playing and all the things. We've been exploring for about 2 hours, and I could feel that maybe we should have a restroom break. So I said, "Would you like a restroom break?" And he said, "Oh, yeah." And he started to get up out of his chair, and I said, "Wait, before you go on the restroom break, for the whole restroom break, I'm going to invite you to see if you can rest back into the awareness of your mind rather than automatically being captured in your mind during the whole restroom break." Well, he went on the restroom break and came back, and things unfolded, and he's looking at his watch every 10 minutes. And right at the 3-hour mark, he says to me, "It's been 3 hours. We're done, right?" And I said, "Oh, yes, we can be done. Absolutely." So he left, and about a week later, I heard from her that she had realized that they weren't a good match, and she was going to, go on her journey, and he would go on his journey, and which is what happened. And she and I kept exploring. We still explore to this day. And he was no longer in the story of her life anymore. I didn't hear about anything having to do with him for 3 years. 3 years down the road, I get a message from him that he wants to schedule. Oh, wow, what a surprise. I remember him. Yeah. And we scheduled. He came in, sat down, and looked at me and said, "Mitch, can I just be honest with you?" I said, "Yes, please. What would you like to share?" When I came to see you that night 3 years ago, I just want to let you know, I didn't come on my own accord. She made me come to see you. I can't remember what I said, but it was comforting to him because he then said to me, "Oh, can I even be more honest?" And I said, "Oh, yes, please. Anything you would like to share is welcome." He said, "I mean, brutally honest." I said, "Yes, please. What would you like to say?" He said, "Okay, here goes. When I left here that night 3 years ago, sitting in my car out in your parking lot, I thought you were really weird." I started laughing. And as I'm laughing, because as you could imagine, this is not the first time I've ever heard that. So as I'm laughing, he puts up his hand sort of like a stop sign hand. And he says, "Mitch, make no mistake about it. I still think you're really weird." I was laughing some more. But then as I was laughing, I could see that he got very tender. He started to tear up and was about to cry. And so I was so honored to be in his presence in that moment. I didn't know for sure what was going on, but I could feel he was feeling something very strongly, very, very tender. And he said, "Mitch?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "There's something that you said to me that night 3 years ago that has stayed with me ever since. And what I've come to realize is you are the kind of weird that I want to be. Oh my goodness. So sweet, so tender. Now we're both tearing up together. He said, I don't know if you'll remember this, but we had been talking for several hours and you invited me to go on a restroom break. And when you did, you said to me, wait, before you get up out of your chair, I invite you to see if you can rest back in awareness and be the observer of your mind rather than being captured in your mind. When you said that to me, I couldn't even make sense of it. It was as if somebody was speaking in a foreign language, and I just knew I was going to fail horribly at it. And then you looked at me with such kindness, gentleness, compassion, and understanding, patience, so sweet. And you said to me, oh, and by the way, this isn't anything you can fail at. It's just a playful invitation. That's what has stayed with me for these 3 years. I've been reflecting on that. That kindness, that gentleness, that compassion, that understanding, that patience, that sweetness. Mitch? And I said, yes. That's the kind of weird that I want to be. So I just felt so honored to be with him that evening. So the sharing of my story came to completion, and she then said to me, so wait, Mitch. Because remember, I said this in reply to her asking me how I would navigate managing the call center. So upon completion of the story that came to me when I dropped into my heart, she said, wait, Mitch, so for the whole 3 hours, he was like that? And did you get frustrated or annoyed with him? No, not at all. Why not? She said. Oh, well, I'm aware that I get to have 3 hours with Shiva. And it was so natural. It just came tumbling out. I didn't think of that with my mind. It's just what came from the heart. Oh, I'm aware I get to have 3 hours with Shiva. She said, that is what it's like for you, isn't it? And I said, yeah, I'm so honored to get to explore with you. She said, Mitch, I understand now. This is the invitation for me as well. Your story is inviting me to consider how I might make use of this perspective that everyone is Shiva, managing the callers in my department. I'm going to invite them, when they call somebody, to realize that they're getting to have a conversation with an expression of the divine, Shiva. She said, I understand that that's what Shiva is. You've shared this with me before, that Shiva is a Sanskrit word for the divine essence, and that each of us is a unique expression of that source divinity, Shiva. I'm going to invite my callers to consider that they're speaking to Shiva when they are on the phone with someone. And I'm going to remove all of the sets and all of the quotas and all of the consequences and rewards and punishments and all of that. I'm just going to do it. I'm not even going to ask the founder of the company or any of my managers if it's okay for me to do it. I'm just going to do it. I'm going all in. Which she did. And amazingly, her department, her callers were getting their quotas and more than their quotas with this approach. As this continued to go on, she then taught them the Name That Thought practice, the First Growl practice, the Problem Solver Mind practice, the Living practice, the Loving Blessing practice. And she even invited them into listening to chanting while they were on the job. She also let them know any time that, you're struggling or it's not going well for you or you need someone to talk to about what it's like to work here, come see me, come sit with me. And they would come be with her. And they would say, this person was so mean to me and I was trying to, experience them as Shiva, but they were saying just terrible things and, hurt my feelings. And she would sit with them and explore with them and help them through that emotion by inviting them into the living practice. Her department started to thrive. It was now time for her quarterly review with the founder of the company. She's now sitting across from him. He's at his desk looking at his computer, looking at all the numbers, the performance of her department. And he gets this surprised look on his face. And he says, wow, your department is outperforming all of the other departments by a huge factor. What are you doing? How is this happening? She said, right in that moment, I realized I was either going to get fired or not, but I knew I had to tell the truth. And I said to him, well, I just didn't resonate with all of the quotas and the requirements and the consequences and the punishments and the rewards. I just didn't resonate with that approach. So I removed all of that from my callers. And he said, you did what? She said, yeah, I removed all of that. In my department, we don't do any of that. And I invite them to realize everybody that they speak to is a unique expression of the divine source of all creation. A word for that in Sanskrit is Shiva, that they're getting to have time with Shiva on the phone calls. And I removed all the pressure, all the requirements. I call it 15 minutes with Shiva. That's the name for this approach that we do in my department. And no one had left. There had been so much turnover in these departments. In her department, no one had left the company in the whole 3 months that she was there for this quarterly performance review. He noticed that as well. He said, wow, you haven't had anybody leave your department either. This is really rare. We usually have so much turnover with the callers. He said, I'm so glad you didn't ask for my permission when you started here, because I would not have let you do this. But clearly, and he looked back at his computer screen, I can't argue with the results here. Would you be willing to teach some of the other departments this method you call 15 minutes with Shiva? She said, oh, okay, sure. As this continued to unfold, all of the departments ended up shifting over to this approach. And the amount of turnover completely changed. People had so much more job satisfaction. And they were learning the practices. And they were chanting. it had turned into a whole new approach, thriving and doing so well. And if we take a look at this approach is an approach that's founded in love and compassion and kindness and gentleness, rather than punishments and consequences and all of that. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if she eventually ends up owning the whole company. That would not surprise me at all. And so, what would it be like as we go forward together as a community of people on planet Earth together if we were to consider this perspective when building organizations, when gathering people together for a particular product or a particular service, all the various ways that we organize companies and corporations. Wouldn't it be fascinating if this way of approaching it were considered and tried, rather than the way that we've been doing for so long that has us in a situation that is less than lovely? Wouldn't it be wonderful if we were to let love and compassion be our compass? What if we were to drop into our heart moment to moment to moment? Oh, by the way, she taught them that in her department as well. In tricky moments with your potential customers, drop into your heart and align with love. Please let me be love. That was the guiding principle. What if we were to, all of us, drop into our heart in the tricky moments, the moments of decisions and choices, and align with the love we are? We can let our pure heart be our compass.